This movie reminded me of Hereditary so much. So what is up, guys? Welcome to my review for Bring Her Back from the directors of Talk to Me. The year Talk to Me came out, it was one of the best movies of the year in my opinion. No expectations whatsoever for it. And I didn't see a trailer or know anything about Bring Her Back going into it, completely blind to watch. I had no idea what it was when I walked into a mystery screening. And I'm here to rip the band-aid off. I didn't really like this movie at all. In fact, I kind of hated it for the vast majority of it, which is disappointing because when I was walking out of this movie, I was reading the reviews and just some stuff I've read online about how good it was. So I already know I'm going to be the minority going up against an army of pitchforks once again. And I'm going to be pretty vague in the way I describe this film because it does take a couple of twists and turns. I want you guys to have an authentic experience. But for the most part, what it's about is it follows our main girl, Piper. She is visually impaired. Her brother is named Andy. Very early on into the movie, their dad passes away, so they're sent to live with this woman who turns out to be a Satanist. Again, there's a lot more to it than that, but that's the very basic concept of this. That's actually how the pre-screening set this up when they talk to the audience about what the movie's about. And this is one of the strangest movies I'm going to review this year because it is all over the place. This movie is a very wide spectrum for me. On one hand, very ineffective, very slow burning, boring family drama. It did not work for me whatsoever. But on the very opposite side of the spectrum is the horror stuff to this movie, which I thought was very effective at being unsettling, some visceral imagery that will last with you. I thought it was pretty unsettling. That being said, it's not my brand of horror. All of the stuff I'm talking about for the most part is self-mutilation body horror. And again, that's just not my brand. It's effective, it's unsettling, it will stick with you, but it's not really what I go to horror movies for. I can already see this movie being applauded for the fact that it's so gruesome and dark and unsettling, but I don't think that in and of itself makes a movie good, because this might be the darkest movie I've seen since the original Speak No Evil. There's very little light at the end of the tunnel in this film. Like, if you walk into this movie and you have no idea what it's about and this is not your type of film, it's probably going to be smothering how dark, depressing, and gruesome it is. But yeah, this movie really reminded me of Hereditary because the type of horror it is, if you are a fan of that film, if you really enjoyed Talk to Me, that alone should probably spark your interest enough to check this one out, because this movie wasn't as unique and fresh as Talk to Me in my opinion. This felt like a more derivative movie, just done very well. Kind of like Hereditary, where it's a very dark and slow brooding family drama with some horror elements, some satanic elements. That's why I'm relating it to a Hereditary. The story itself is not similar to that movie, but just the tone of the movie and how it feels to watch that movie, that brand of horror. If that's your thing, if you herald that movie to be like one of the greatest movies ever, obviously keep this movie on your radar. But why this movie ultimately didn't work for me is it just felt like a very muddled story. Whenever you have this type of horror movie that is a very slow burn family drama with horror elements, the story needs to make sense. It needs to be cohesive. I did not find that to be the case for this. I was confused for a decent amount of this film. I thought there were way too many moving parts. I thought the story got confusing. I thought things just kept jumping around way too much to follow, to make anything they're setting in motion feel like it sticks. It kind of takes you out of your element when you're watching these gruesome things or you're seeing these dramatic moments. They don't really have any oomph to them because there's so much going on. You have the main character in this, Piper, who is visually impaired. You have her brother Andy. You have their relationship with her dad. You meet this new woman named Laura who becomes their caregiver. You're learning about her past through flashbacks and videotapes. You're learning about Piper and Andy's past through flashbacks. You also have this very weird kid named Oliver she is adopted earlier into the movie, who is just all over the place whenever that kid's on screen. Feels wildly out of place at points, but he is almost all of the centric horror elements of this movie. And not to get off topic, but his entire thing, like the entire character of Oliver, where all of the horror comes from for the most part, I thought was just all over the place. I kind of get what they were going for, but it did not work for me. It was very ineffective. Going back to that spectrum of family drama and horror, the real issue I have with this film is that when you're in the dramatic moments, and there are a lot of them, I would say like the first hour of this movie is just a very slow burn. About the 15-minute mark or so in this movie, I was battling to stay invested. I was daydreaming a little bit. One of those movies where I could actively think to myself, I wish I was liking this more than I am because I really wanted to like this film. But since this movie is so heavy on the drama and I didn't find it effective and I didn't connect to these characters, I thought a vast majority of this movie was just boring. And don't get me wrong, there are 4 or 5 scenes in this movie that are incredibly gruesome and unsettling, hard to watch. They are stuck in my head as I say this, like I'm not going to forget them. But it also didn't feel earned because the scenes you're watching are gruesome for the sake of being gruesome. It's like shock value, a schlocky 80s B horror film. Like the scenes they throw in here could have not existed, and this movie's the exact same film. It's like they needed to throw that in to make this a horror film to blend with that family drama because we don't need any of it. I mean, it's effective, but we don't need it. Even the Terrifier films, you could argue that gore is very centric to the story because of Art the Clown. This gore has absolutely no purpose but to shock you and scar you. So if you are a gore hound and you're looking for something that's going to stick in your head, especially things related to mouths, give this one a look. But if you're somebody who hates extreme gore, things that are just visceral and just ugh, like maybe pass on this one. I will say this, I think whatever this movie was trying to be is probably at its peak because of directing style, because of acting, because of all of the work put into the movie. It's clearly a well-made movie, don't get me wrong. Like the practical effects and gore, highly effective and disgusting. The woman who goes on to be their caregiver, I think, is probably the best part of this film, because it's not like a lot of movies when you meet somebody who's clearly the bad guy. This person feels like they have redeeming qualities that you can sort of connect with at points, but at the same time, it's also very clear she's not a good person. So I like the fact that they put you in a little bit of a moral dilemma for what her inspirations are. The only person I think stood out a little bit, I didn't connect with, I think he was very well acted at all, is her brother Andy, especially because of the way this movie's story chooses to evolve. I feel like everything this movie's third act was working towards kind of just falls off a cliff, and it's like, oh, we're just doing that. That was all kind of pointless. Because it feels like we're really building up to some massive conclusion and statement, and then they just kind of do a 180 and flip it on its head, and it all just feels like it was kind of for naught. Like everything we were building up to just never happened. This is one of those examples where I can commend the people who made this film because it's effective at making me feel weird, like feel unsettled. But that's all this movie did, is it made me feel weird. Like when I was watching this movie, I was like, why am I watching this? Like, I don't want to be watching this. And I kind of feel like I owe this movie a second watch, like I said about Hereditary, because that's the type of film this is. There's so much to it. But again, at the same time, as I say that, I'm thinking about it in my head right now. I'm thinking, would I ever want to watch that movie again? And the answer is decisively no. Like one time was enough for me. And I also will say this, I think the ending won me over a little bit. I thought the very last scene, like the last 5 minutes, they have a couple of metaphorical things they talked about earlier in the movie they actually showcase in the end. I thought was pretty cool, and I think there was an emotional edge to it, a little bit haunting. If not for that final 5 minutes and how they kind of showcase those things, I probably would have gave this a hate rating. I did not enjoy the vast majority of this movie. So overall, guys, I'm going to be in the minority of this one. People are going to say this is incredibly effective, so unsettling, so gruesome. I agree with all of that. You'll feel weird watching this, and you'll have these images stuck in your head, and you'll just kind of feel like it's all over the place and just odd. That doesn't make it a good movie for me. I did not enjoy watching this. I thought the story was too muddled. I didn't really connect to these characters. I thought it was way too slow. Could have cut out about 15 to 20 minutes at least and replaced some of the elements that got confusing with things that made more sense, and the movie just works better. So weigh everything I said, and if all of that sounds like your brand of horror, maybe go check this one out in theaters, but if you're like me, wait for streaming. Did you guys get around to seeing Bring Her Back yet? If you did, comment down below, let me know, or just let me know what you thought of Talk to Me. For me, pleasantly surprising. As always, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, join me down below, like, comment, subscribe, all of that really helps me. We're almost to 1,000 subs. I will see you in the next video. Peace.